I'm Sarah, this is my colleague David. We're from Fender Katsalidis. We'll be talking through the Alba today. We did just want to also acknowledge our other colleague Jess Lee, who's a principal with us, and she was really important to the delivery and the design of this project. She's in Brisbane, so she couldn't make it today. Before we get into it, we did just want to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We did also want to acknowledge the Bunurong and Bunurong people where the Alba is located.
An interesting proposition by Carla Elefante really talks about the greenest building as one that already exists. And so I think at a time of climate crisis, it's quite integral that we consider not only how we design, but also how buildings are constructed and what actually sustainability actually can mean in the design and construction industry. Adaptive reuse is an amazing opportunity that so many practices do fantastic work in, because it's obviously so critical that we minimise embodied carbon in construction, especially now. But there's also wonderful benefits that come out of that: heritage retention, construction time savings, sometimes cost savings as well. And so, like all buildings in our city, the Alba has its own story. So from the 1970s onwards, it was home to Australian Unity, who was our client for the project. And around 2015, they came to FK looking to develop a retirement community. That project was actually to this kind of southwest of the Alba, and that was a 18-storey independent living apartment building, the Grace, which is the taller building to the left of the Alba. Australian Unity then considered extending that retirement community, and so rather than demolishing their own office building, which they'd been in for 40 some years, they proposed converting it into apartments and care suites. This obviously provided a number of benefits for them. There was reduced disruption to the new residents of the Grace, which is the building in section on the left. There was also a much more straightforward planning process as a result of that as well. There was no new height that could be ever gained from that site. And so there was really not as much benefit of considering demolishing and creating a new building. And then there was obviously the added benefit of potentially saving some construction time as well, because you're not demolishing and building an entirely new structure. The other interesting thing for Australian Unity as well was also considering how ageing in place could occur. So the Grace is much more of an independent living. People are out and about in the community, and then the Alba allows that ageing in place for a higher level of care if needed. This is a quick floor plan of the original office. You can see the kind of central core, central structure. As part of the reuse, that core and structure was obviously retained. There was also a construction of some new openings through a number of lower floors. Those were put in place really to kind of extend that connectivity between households. So anyone who's ever worked in aged care or retirement living understands the size of households is also quite linked to the level of care available. And those voids at those lower levels allowed some of those households to kind of merge and mix visually, acoustically.
Even smells being shared between those households was really important in terms of cooking.
The facade was also structural, which was actually potentially unusual, but actually of great benefit, because that obviously contained a lot of the character and quality of the original office building as well, but also presented its own challenges, especially for the interiors and how you actually create someone's home within that space. And so as you can see here, it's held up remarkably well. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry. And so through construction, these are some process photos. Obviously, that involves stripping it down to a lot of that bare bones. Of note, we only had to remove one kind of vertical column of structure, and that was really just to allow for an alleymate to get access. And as anyone who's ever worked on adaptive reuse, there's obviously a lot that goes into that, whether it's building up new floors, new structural requirements, remediation or fire certification, safety, etc. And obviously quite a challenge going from one building classification to another.
So just a quick view of those two buildings, really setting up a wellbeing and ageing in place precinct. But what was really wonderful, and perhaps we go to the next page, was actually how that existing facade structure, and David mentioned it, but actually contributed to the internal and interior quality of spaces in the homes that we were designing. So this is one of the common area spaces in one of the aged care households. And we really worked quite a lot with AU to develop the plan and the household method and direction for these spaces. But in particular, that existing facade element, we created this dado banding along the bottom, which was also designed to have a handrail inbuilt into it. So it was an additional support and stability mechanism for aged care residents who could also then engage with the community. We know in aged care how important observation of community externally is. So that facade was really important to us and to the social wellbeing of residents. On the topmost floor, the image on the left, the position of the core made for some quite tight spaces, but we looked to design these social spaces as places where incidental meeting could happen and provided moments of rest, moments of pause, but also again moments where activity could be observed for residents. And then the image on the right-hand side speaks to one of the apartments and actually starts to show how that facade, you can just see a glimpse of it on the left, but also the constraint in slab to slab or ceiling heights actually made for these quite intimate and really truly residential feeling spaces. The image on the left there is of one of the aged care units, and again this does tell the story of how important that connection and observation of external community and activity was. And all of those aged care rooms were also designed to have family and support family coming together and occupying those spaces and being with family members.
So we'll just wrap up quickly. From a figures perspective, we calculated that the carbon dioxide equivalent savings in the embodied energy saved by retaining the structure is over 3.3 million kilos, which is about 600 or so Asian elephants, if anyone likes the equivalent. But really, in seriousness, a 65% reduction at a time where we really need to consider how we reduce energy and resources. There's also a great number of social savings and community sustainability qualities that are involved in that. And so from a 50-year lifespan so far, we really hope that now that there's another 50 more, because we really do consider that we do have an obligation to future descendants, and hopefully we can age in place there ourselves. Thank you.